The discovery. Dr. Eliza Novick pressed her face against the observation dome, watching distant stars flicker through the methane storms of Titan. 6 months stationed on Helios 9, and she still hadn't grown tired of the view. The research station, suspended in Saturn's orbit, offered spectacular vistas, but little in the way of scientific breakthroughs. Until today. Dr. Novick, your presence is requested in Analysis Lab 3, announced the station's AI. Priority level urgent. Eliza sighed, touching the silver pendant at her throat, a habit from childhood. What now, Arya? Another methane fluctuation. Negative. Director Reeves has classified the information. He requests your expertise specifically. That was unusual. Dominic Reeves typically avoided the scientific staff, preferring administrative comforts to the messiness of actual discovery. Eliza straightened her standard-issue jumpsuit and headed for the lab. The curved corridors of Helios 9 hummed with activity, unusual for the night cycle. Something significant had happened. When the pneumatic doors to Lab 3 hissed open, Eliza found Director Reeves standing with 2 other figures, Jasper Kwan, the station's head of mechanical engineering, and Vrixia, the scaled, multi-limbed xenosociologist from Proxima Centauri's colony. "Ah, Dr. Novick," Reeves said, his thin smile not reaching his eyes. "Excellent timing." "What's happened?" Eliza asked, nodding the tension in the room. Jasper stepped forward, his dark eyes intense beneath a shock of unruly black hair. "Long-range sensors picked up something unexpected." His fingers danced across the holographic display, bringing up a star chart of an unexplored sector. "Energy signatures from RX 724. "That's impossible," Eliza replied. "RX 724 was surveyed last year, classified as uninhabitable, no biological activity." "Precisely why I summoned you," Reeves interjected. "The planet is showing energy patterns consistent with consciousness," Vrixia finished, her 4 arms moving in the graceful gestures of her species. "The patterns resemble neural activity, but on a planetary scale." Eliza studied the readouts, her scientific skepticism warring with undeniable evidence. The wavelengths pulsed with a regularity that couldn't be natural, at least not by any definition they understood. "How long has this been happening?" "The signals began 3 standard weeks ago," Jasper explained. "But they've increased in frequency and complexity by 327% in the last 72 hours. Eliza's mind raced through possibilities. "We need to send a probe, get closer readings." Director Reeves clasped his hands behind his back. "Galactic protocol is clear. We report this to Central Command and wait for authorization. This could take months given our location." "By which time whatever is happening could be over," Eliza argued. "This could be first contact." "Or a sensor malfunction," Reeves countered. Vrixia's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. "The pattern suggests intelligence. My people have encountered similar signatures from crystalline life forms in the Andromeda sector." Jasper leaned against a console. "I've already prepped the horizon. The research shuttle could reach RX 724 in 11 days. Eliza shot him a surprised look. "You're suggesting an unauthorized expedition." "I'm suggesting we do our jobs as scientists," Jasper replied with a half-smile. "Protocol also states that station personnel can initiate emergency investigation if there's potential threat to galactic security." "Very creative interpretation," Reeves said dryly. "The answer is no. We report to Central Command and—" "There's something else," Vrixia interrupted, her voice resonating with the harmonic overtones of her species. "RX 724 falls within the claim zone of Tellurian Corporation. Their mining vessels have been surveying nearby systems." The room fell silent. Tellurian Corporation, notorious for extracting resources first and asking questions never, if they detected the same signals. 48 hours, Eliza said suddenly. "Give us 48 hours to prepare a mission. If Central Command responds before then, we abort. Otherwise, we take the horizon for preliminary investigation only. No landing unless absolutely necessary." Reeves hesitated, ambition and caution warring in his expression. And what exactly do I tell Central Command when they ask why my xenobiologist, engineer, and xenosociologist all vanished with a research vessel? That you're doing your duty to preserve potential first contact from corporate interference, Eliza countered. The first director to document a new sentient species would certainly receive recognition. It was a calculated appeal to Reeves' ambition, and they all knew it. After a long moment, he nodded curtly. 48 hours, preliminary investigation only. I want hourly updates once you're in range. 10 days later, the Horizon emerged from its final jump, the small research vessel's systems whirring back to life as Jasper guided them toward RX-724. Atmospheric analysis coming in, he announced, hands moving confidently across the controls. High levels of oxygen, nitrogen, and something else. Spectral analysis doesn't match any known element. Eliza looked up from her own console. Life signs. Nothing conventional, Vrixia answered, her scaled skin shifting through patterns of concentration. But the energy signatures are stronger here. They're emanating from specific regions on the surface. The planet grew larger in their view screen, a swirling marble of deep blues and violet, unlike anything in their database. No obvious landmasses, just varying densities of color that seemed to pulse and shift even as they watched. It's beautiful, Eliza whispered. And potentially deadly, Jasper reminded her. We should deploy the drones first. They sent 3 probe drones to different coordinates where the energy signatures were strongest. The data began streaming back immediately and defied all explanation. This can't be right, Jasper muttered, running the analysis again. According to these readings, the entire planet is covered in some kind of crystalline structure, not solid landmasses, but a lattice like a web or network. Vrixia moved to his side, her 4 eyes widening, and the energy signatures are moving through this network like thoughts through neural pathways. Eliza felt a chill run through her. We need to see this up close. Jasper, find us a stable landing area near one of the stronger signal points. Eliza, Vrixia cautioned, we agreed to preliminary observation only. That was before we found a planet-sized brain. Eliza was already heading for the equipment bay. We'll take full precautions, environment suits, short exposure, emergency extraction protocols. Jasper sighed but began the landing sequence. I'm recording my formal protest, and then I'm coming with you. Noted, Eliza replied with a grim smile. Vrixia. The alien hesitated, then nodded. I will accompany you. My people have experience with non-traditional consciousness. I may perceive patterns you cannot. The Horizon descended through layers of atmosphere that shimmered like oil on water. As they broke through the lower cloud layer, the true nature of RX-724 revealed itself. Mother of stars, Jasper breathed. Below them stretched an endless ocean of blue-violet crystal formations. Some rose like mountains, others spread in delicate fans like frozen waves. All pulsed with internal light that flowed in visible currents from one formation to another. The effect was hypnotic, a planet-wide symphony of light and structure. Jasper found a relatively flat expanse between 2 major formations and gently set the Horizon down. The ship settled with a slight creak, its landing gear adapting to the crystalline surface. Atmosphere is breathable, he reported, but contains unknown particulates, full suit protocol in effect. They suited up in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about what awaited them. Eliza checked her equipment one final time, sample collectors, analyzers, recording devices, and the experimental universal translator that had never had a proper field test. Stay within visual range at all times, she instructed as Jasper cycled the airlock. First sign of danger, we retreat immediately. The outer door slid open, and RX-724 greeted them with an alien splendor that no probe could have properly captured. The crystalline surface beneath their boots hummed with subtle vibration. The air, even filtered through their helmets, carried a scent like ozone and something sweeter, almost like honey. The energy readings are strongest in that direction, Jasper indicated, pointing to a formation that rose like a cathedral spire, pulsing with deeper blue light than its surroundings. They moved carefully across the surface, their footsteps creating ripples of light that spread outward through the crystal beneath them. Eliza noticed something unsettling. The ripples weren't random. They converged, forming patterns that flowed toward the larger formation ahead. "We're being noticed," Vrixia said quietly. "The network is responding to our presence." "Noticed by what?" Jasper asked, one hand moving to the pulse rifle at his side, standard equipment, though Eliza had hoped they wouldn't need it. They got their answer moments later. The crystal formation before them began to shift. Sections moved, rearranged, flowing like liquid despite their seemingly solid structure. The light within intensified, concentrating in what gradually took form as a vaguely humanoid shape, twice their height, with limbs that tapered to fine points and a head that was more suggestion than reality. Eliza froze, her scientific mind racing to categorize what she was seeing. Not mineral, not organic, something that existed at the intersection of both. "Activating translator," she whispered, fingers shaking slightly as she engaged the device. The crystal being moved closer, light pulsing through its form in complex patterns. Vrixia stepped forward, her own scales shifting through colors in what Eliza recognized as her species' attempt at communication. "I believe it's curious," Vrixia said softly, "not hostile yet." The translator hummed, attempting to find patterns in the light pulses. Eliza held her breath as the being extended one crystalline appendage toward them, stopping just short of contact. The translator suddenly sparked to life. Different, new, not destroyers. The words appeared on her helmet display, crude approximations of concepts rather than direct translation. "We're researchers," Eliza said carefully. "Scientists, we detect your consciousness, we came to learn." The being's light patterns shifted rapidly. Others came, broke the network, took pieces of the whole. Jasper tensed beside her. "Tellurian." "We're not with them," Eliza assured the crystal being. "We mean no harm." "Show truth." The being's appendage moved closer to Eliza's helmet. "It wants to establish direct contact," Vrixia explained. "My species has encountered similar methods of communication. It's seeking resonance to understand us through vibration patterns of thought." "Is it safe?" Jasper asked. "Unknown," Vrixia admitted, "but refusing may be interpreted as hostility." Eliza made a decision. "I'll do it." Before the others could protest, she stepped forward and allowed the crystalline appendage to touch her helmet. The world exploded into blue. Images, sensations, and concepts flooded her mind. A vast consciousness spread across an entire world. Not individuals, but a collective awareness that existed within the crystalline network. The Cerulans, as they identified themselves, were the network and the network was them. A billion minds unified yet distinct. And they were terrified. Eliza saw through their perception, ships descending, machines cutting into the crystal formations, tearing away pieces that contained hundreds, thousands of consciousness fragments. The pain, the horror of being dismembered while still aware. She gasped as the connection broke, stumbling backward into Jasper's steadying grip. "Eliza, are you all right?" "They're harvesting them," she managed, fighting nausea. "Tellurian is mining these crystals, but they're not just minerals. Each crystal contains fragments of consciousness. It would be like harvesting human brain tissue while the person is still alive." The Cerulans' light patterns pulsed with what Eliza now recognized as distress. More beings were forming from the surrounding crystal structures, dozens of them, drawn by the communication. "Help stop the breaking, many lost, many taken." Vrixia's scales had paled to a sickly yellow. "We need to document everything, if Tellurian is harvesting sentient beings." A distant rumble interrupted her. The crystal surface beneath them trembled, and the gathered Cerulans' light patterns flashed in patterns of alarm. Destroyers return. Through the violet-tinged sky, they saw the unmistakable silhouette of a Tellurian mining vessel breaking atmosphere, a massive industrial behemoth trailing smaller harvester ships. We need to get back to the horizon, Jasper urged. Now. We can't just leave them, Eliza protested. We need evidence, proof of what's happening here. The Sarolan who had connected with her surged forward, its form shifting rapidly. A piece of its crystalline body separated, shaped itself into a perfect sphere, and floated toward Eliza. Take, show others, memory of the whole. Eliza carefully accepted the crystal, which pulsed with the same blue light as its donor. Thank you, we'll stop this, I promise. They ran for the horizon as the mining vessel drew closer, its shadow darkening the crystalline landscape. The Sarolans retreated into their formations, light patterns dimming, hiding. Just as they reached their ship, a spotlight caught them. One of the smaller harvester craft had broken formation to investigate the unidentified vessel. Unregistered craft, this is Tellurian security, a voice boomed over external speakers. You are trespassing on a corporate claim. Power down immediately. Get inside, Eliza ordered. Jasper, how fast can you get us to jump distance? Too long if they're determined to stop us, he replied grimly. They sealed the airlock just as the harvester's spotlights flooded the area. Jasper raced to the controls, initiating emergency launch sequence. Tellurian vessel, this is the research ship Horizon from Helios 9, Eliza broadcast. We are conducting authorized scientific survey. Please stand down. The response was a warning shot that struck the ground beside them, sending crystal shards flying. Final warning, power down or be disabled. The Horizon shuddered as Jasper pushed the engines beyond safety parameters. They lifted off, accelerating hard toward the upper atmosphere. 2 harvester ships broke pursuit, weapons systems coming online. They're not going to let us leave with what we know, Vrixia said, securing the crystal sample in a containment field. Eliza strapped herself in. Jasper, evasive pattern Delta. I'm sending an emergency burst transmission to Helios 9 with everything we've recorded so far. The smaller research vessel shook violently as it corkscrewed through the atmosphere, the harvesters in close pursuit. Energy blasts sizzled past their viewports. Transmission sent, Eliza confirmed, whether Reeves does anything with it or not. A direct hit rocked the ship, alarms blaring as systems failed. Jasper fought with the controls. We've lost stabilizers. I can keep us flying, but jumping is out of the question now. Another hit. The lights flickered, emergency systems engaging. There's an asteroid field at the edge of this system, Vrixia suggested, pulling up navigation charts. If we can reach it. Worth a try, Jasper agreed, adjusting course. The crystalline sample pulsed more intensely, its light synchronizing with the ship's failing systems. Suddenly, the control panels stabilized, power readings returning to normal. What just happened? Jasper demanded. Eliza stared at the crystal. I think our passenger is helping. The Sarolans manipulate energy. It must be stabilizing our systems somehow. With their ship partially restored, they outpaced the harvesters enough to reach the asteroid belt. Jasper skillfully threaded the horizon through the tumbling rocks while their pursuers fell back, unwilling to risk their larger vessels. We've lost them for now, he announced, but we can't go home. Not with the ship in this condition, and not when Tellurian will be monitoring all approach vectors to Helios 9. Eliza cradled the pools in crystal, watching as it continued to interface with their ship in ways she couldn't begin to understand. We don't need to go home, she said quietly. We need to go public. The Galactic Council needs to see what's happening on RX-724. Vrixia moved to her side, placing one of her 4 hands gently on Eliza's shoulder. The truth about the Sarolans will change everything we understand about consciousness and life itself. And it will destroy Tellurian Corporation, Jasper added with grim satisfaction. As the damaged Horizon limped deeper into the asteroid field to make repairs, Eliza couldn't tear her gaze from the living crystal in her hands, a fragment of a vast consciousness that the galaxy wasn't prepared to understand. But they would have to learn. The secret of blue couldn't remain hidden any longer. The revelation. The horizon limped through the darkness of space, its hull bearing the scars of Tellurian's attack. Inside, Jasper Quan worked tirelessly, rerouting systems and patching critical components. 3 days of hiding in the asteroid field had given them breathing room, but little comfort. "Navigation's back online," he announced, wiping grease from his forehead. "Life support is stable. Communications," he shook his head. "Limited range only. We can't broadcast to the Galactic Council from here." Dr. Eliza Novick barely heard him. Her attention remained fixed on the crystalline sphere that pulsed with gentle blue light in the containment field. Since their escape, she'd spent every waking moment studying the Cerulean fragment, trying to establish consistent communication. "Any progress?" Vrixia asked, entering the ship's cramped laboratory. The xenosociologist's scales had settled into a concerned lavender hue. "Some," Eliza replied, finally looking up. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. "It responds to electrical stimuli. When I channel specific patterns through this array," she gestured to a makeshift device she'd constructed, "it answers with light patterns. I'm starting to recognize recurring sequences." The crystal pulsed, its light intensifying. "It can hear us," Vrixia observed. "More than that," Eliza's voice held a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "I believe it's growing, adapting to survive outside its network. The patterns are becoming more complex by the hour." Jasper joined them, his expression troubled. "Is that why our systems keep reconfiguring? I'll fix something, leave it for an hour, and come back to find the circuitry completely rearranged, but working better than before." "The Cerulean is trying to help us," Eliza confirmed. "But I think it's also trying to maintain its own consciousness without its larger network. It's evolving." "We need to get back to Helios 9, Jasper said, lowering his voice. "Tellurian won't expect us to return to the station. We can gather resources, alert Central Command properly." Vrixia's scales shifted to a cautious blue. "If Director Reeves received our transmission, why hasn't there been any response? No rescue vessels, no communications." A heavy silence fell over the small crew. They'd all been avoiding this question. "Two possibilities," Eliza finally said. "Either our transmission never reached Helios 9, or Reeves received it and chose not to act," Jasper finished grimly. Vrixia's arms moved in complex patterns of distress. "You believe the Director is involved with Tellurian. It would explain why our initial scans of RX 724 showed no signs of the crystal network or energy signatures," Eliza reasoned. "Someone deliberately altered the data." The crystal pulsed more rapidly, its light pattern changing to sharp bursts of intensity. Eliza turned to it, watching the sequence repeat. "What is it trying to tell us?" Jasper asked. Eliza adjusted her makeshift interface. "I think it's showing us coordinates, a navigation path." She transferred the data to the ship's system. "It's a route back to Helios 9, but using the gravitational shadows of the gas giants to mask our approach." "Can we trust it?" Jasper frowned. "It saved our systems when Tellurian attacked," Eliza reminded him. "I think our goals align. It wants to expose what's happening to its people as much as we do." With few alternatives, they plotted the course. The horizon slipped from the asteroid field and began the long approach to Saturn's system, staying within the electromagnetic interference zones where detection would be most difficult. 5 days later, Helios 9 appeared in their viewports, the familiar rings of Saturn forming a backdrop to the research station's elegant structure. No alarm sirens greeted their unauthorized approach. No security vessels moved to intercept them. "Something's wrong," Jasper muttered as he guided them toward a secondary maintenance dock rarely used by station personnel. "They should have detected us by now." "Perhaps they believe we perished," Vrixia suggested. Eliza wasn't convinced. "Dock us manually, Jasper, full stealth protocol." The horizon settled into the maintenance bay with only the faintest metallic groan. No welcoming committee, no security alert. Just the empty, cavernous docking area designed for repair drones. "We need allies," Eliza decided, securing the crystal sample in a portable containment unit. Someone we can trust. Dr. Lin Wei, Vrixia suggested immediately. The chief medical officer has no connection to Reeves' administration. Her loyalty is to science and her oath. And she owes me for covering her unauthorized genetics research last year, Jasper added with a grim smile. Medical Bay it is. They moved through the station's maintenance corridors, avoiding the main passages where surveillance would be heaviest. The familiar hum of Helios 9's systems surrounded them, yet everything felt different, tainted by suspicion. After nearly an hour of careful navigation through service tunnels and emergency bypasses, they reached Medical Bay 3, Dr. Lin's private research laboratory. The doors hissed open to reveal a petite woman with steel-gray hair pulled into a severe bun. Dr. Lin Wei looked up from her microscope, her expression shifting from annoyance to shock. "You're supposed to be dead," she stated flatly. "Sorry to disappoint," Jasper replied. Lin's eyes darted to the corridor behind them. "Get in, quickly." She sealed the door and initiated privacy protocols. "There are Tellurian representatives on the station. They reported your ship destroyed when you violated their mining claim." "And Reeves?" Eliza asked. "Playing the grieving director perfectly," Lin scoffed, "while signing very profitable research contracts with Tellurian Corporation." Eliza placed the containment unit on Lin's examination table. "We need your help, Lin. What we've discovered changes everything." As the crystal pulsed inside its housing, they explained their findings. Lin listened without interruption, her scientific skepticism evident but not dismissive. When they finished, she studied the crystal with intense focus. "A networked consciousness using crystalline structures as both medium and body," she summarized. "Extraordinary, and Tellurian is harvesting these beings." "Not just harvesting them," Eliza said. "Using them, that's what we need to find out. What are they doing with the crystals?" Lin's expression darkened. "They've established a research lab on level 7, restricted access. They brought equipment and crystal samples 3 days after your disappearance. Reeves has given them full autonomy." "We need to get in there," Jasper insisted. "Impossible," Lin countered. "Biometric security, armed guards." The crystal's pulsing suddenly intensified, casting electric blue patterns across the medical bay's sterile surfaces. The lights flickered, and Lin's computer terminal activated itself, displaying station schematics and security protocols. "It's interfacing with the station systems," Eliza realized, "just like it did with our ship." Lines of code scrolled across the screen, security pathways highlighting themselves before being systematically bypassed. "Your crystal friend is quite the hacker," Lin observed dryly. "It's creating a security override." "Not creating," Vrixia corrected, her scales shifting to a thoughtful green. "Understanding. The Serolans process information differently than we do. They see patterns and connections instantly where we would need to analyze sequentially." The terminal beeped softly, displaying access granted to level 7. "We have 12 minutes before the system refreshes its security protocols," Lin announced, reading the screen. "I'm coming with you." "Too dangerous," Eliza began. "I'm the only one with legitimate access to that level," Lin interrupted. "Besides, if what you're saying is true, I want to see it for myself." The journey to level 7 was tense but uneventful. Lin's medical authority granted them passage through the main corridors, while the crystal's interference kept them invisible to security scans. They reached the newly established Tellurian laboratory without incident. "Remember, we need evidence," Eliza reminded them as Lin placed her palm on the scanner. "Whatever they're doing with the crystals, we need proof to take to the council." The doors slid open to reveal a space transformed. What had once been a standard research laboratory now housed advanced equipment Eliza didn't recognize. At the center stood a massive cylindrical chamber filled with blue-violet crystal fragments, hundreds of them, all pulsing with weakening light. "They're dying," Vrixia whispered, her scales paling to ashen gray. "Cut off from their network." Jasper moved to a terminal, quickly accessing files. "They're calling it Project Resonance. These crystals, They're calling them exotic energy matrices. They're trying to harness the energy patterns. For what purpose? Lin asked, examining the equipment. The answer came in the form of a weapons schematic that appeared on Jasper's screen. Weapons, he confirmed grimly. The crystals generate energy patterns that can penetrate any known shielding. They're building planet killers. Eliza's containment unit began to vibrate, the crystal inside pulsing erratically. It's distressed, she said, placing a hand on the unit. It can sense its kin dying. We need to document everything, Lynn decided, activating her medical recorder. Every file, every sample analysis. What's happening to the lights? Jasper interrupted. The laboratory's illumination had taken on a blue tinge, pulsing subtly. The crystal fragments in the central chamber were responding, their light synchronizing with Eliza's specimen. They're communicating, Eliza realized, reconnecting. The crystal fragments in the chamber began to pulse more strongly, their light flowing together in patterns reminiscent of the network they'd seen on RX-724. The laboratory equipment sparked, and screens flickered as unexpected power surged through the systems. We need to leave, Lynn urged. Now. Not without evidence, Eliza insisted, transferring files to a portable drive while Vrixia continued recording. The doors suddenly slid open. Director Reeves stood in the entrance, flanked by two Tellurian security officers. His thin lips curved into a disappointed smile. I suspected you might have survived, he said calmly. Though I admit your return to the scene of the crime shows poor judgment, Dr. Novick. The only crime here is genocide, Eliza replied, stepping protectively in front of the containment unit. The Cerolans are sentient beings, Reeves. What Tellurian is doing is mass murder. Reeves sighed. Always the idealist. These crystals are the most valuable resource discovery in 50 years. Do you have any idea what Tellurian is paying for exclusive development rights? Helios 9 will become the most important research station in the sector. And how many conscious beings will die for your promotion? Jasper demanded. Reeves signaled the security officers. Detain them, all of them. As the officers moved forward, the laboratory was suddenly bathed in intense blue light. The crystal fragments in the central chamber were now pulsing in perfect unison, their collective energy growing visibly stronger. Shut down the containment field, Reeves ordered, but it was too late. The chamber shattered, crystal fragments hovering in midair, their light connecting in luminous threads. Eliza's specimen burst from its containment unit, joining its kin in a swirling constellation of conscious light. What have you done? Reeves demanded as the fragments began to coalesce into a humanoid form similar to what they'd witnessed on RX-724. We didn't do anything, Eliza answered, watching in awe. They did. The crystalline entity towered over them, its form radiating light in complex, beautiful patterns. When it spoke, the words resonated directly in their minds, not sound but pure concept. Witness. Images flooded their consciousness. The vast network of Cerolan minds spanning their planet, the pain of separation as Tellurian ships harvested portions of their collective being, the agony of those fragments as they were experimented upon and weaponized. The security officers dropped their weapons, overwhelmed by the psychic onslaught. Reeves stumbled backward, his face contorted in horror at the direct experience of what his ambition had enabled. The entity turned its attention to the laboratory equipment, particularly the weapons prototypes. With a gesture, the crystalline being sent surges of energy through the systems, overloading and destroying the research data in cascading failures. Stop, Reeves cried. Do you have any idea what you're destroying, the potential? Life is not potential, life is. More crystal fragments floated from storage containers throughout the lab, joining the entity's form, making it grow larger, more defined. The lights throughout the station began to flicker as the being drew power from Helios 9 systems. What does it want? Lynn whispered to Eliza. Justice, Eliza answered, understanding flowing from her connection with the crystal she had carried. And to return home. The entity turned toward them, its light patterns shifting to something gentler. Help US tell your kind, we wish peace, separate but connected. Vrixia stepped forward, her scales shifting through harmonious patterns. We will be your advocates before the Galactic Council. What Tellurian has done will not go unpunished. You can't seriously expect. Reeves began, but fell silent as the entity turned its attention back to him. You will witness too, carry this memory. A small fragment separated from the entity, hovering before Reeves. Before he could retreat, it touched his forehead. He screamed, not in pain, but in overwhelming comprehension. When the fragment withdrew, Reeves collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I didn't know, he whispered. I didn't understand they were alive. But you suspected, Eliza countered without mercy. You chose not to find out. The entity began to pulse with increasing urgency, its light patterns becoming less stable. Time Short must return, Network WAKNS. It needs to rejoin its collective consciousness on RX 724, Vrixia translated. The fragments have limited viability when separated for too long. We'll take you home, Eliza promised, but first we need your help. 3 weeks later, Eliza stood before the Galactic Council, the chamber silent as she completed her testimony. Beside her, a small crystalline fragment, a willing emissary from the Cerolands, pulsed gently in a specially designed containment field that allowed it to maintain connection with its home network through technology developed by Jasper and Lynn. The evidence provided by Helios 9's research team is irrefutable, declared Counselor Thevos, the venerable Arcturian who headed the ethics division. Tellurian Corporation has violated our most sacred law, the protection of sentient species. Their mining operations on RX 724 will cease immediately, and reparations will be determined. Tellurian's representatives sat in stony silence. With the combined testimony of Eliza's team, Dr. Lynn's meticulous documentation, and most damning of all, Director Reeves' tearful confession, their legal position had crumbled entirely. Beyond punitive measures, continued Counselor Thevos, this discovery represents a paradigm shift in our understanding of consciousness itself. The Cerolands exist as both individuals and a collective simultaneously, a form of life previously theoretical but never confirmed. The Ceroland emissary pulsed, its light patterns translated through the interface Eliza and Jasper had perfected. We wish to share knowledge, learn from DIFFERNCES, grow together. The Council recognizes the sovereign status of the Ceroland Collective, Thevos announced. RX 724 is hereby designated a protected world, with diplomatic status granted to its inhabitants. As the proceedings concluded, Eliza found herself surrounded by her team, Jasper, Vrixia, and Lynn, all wearing expressions of exhausted triumph. What happens now? Jasper asked, watching as the Ceroland emissary was carefully transported for its journey home. Now, Eliza said, touching the small crystal pendant at her throat, a gift from the Cerolands containing a tiny fragment freely given. We begin to understand what it truly means to be conscious. The Cerolands see reality differently than we do. Imagine what we might learn from each other. Vrixia's scales shifted to a hopeful blue-green. They've already taught us one important lesson. Consciousness isn't limited to biological forms or to individuals. It can exist as a network, shared across an entire world. The secret of blue, Lynn murmured, referencing the distinctive color of Ceroland consciousness. The color of a mind bigger than we ever imagined possible. As they left the council chamber, heading toward the ship that would return them to continue their research on Helios 9, now under new leadership, Eliza felt the small crystal at her throat pulse gently. A familiar sensation touched her mind, not words exactly, but a feeling of gratitude and connection. The universe had just become infinitely more complex and infinitely more wondrous. The secret of blue was out, and nothing would ever be the same again. The end.